Thank you very much.
I feel like I'm rather degrading catastrophically today. I don't know if it's the heat or the extremely sort of technical questioning, but I represent Plymouth, a maritime constituency, and I absolutely understand this. I think I understand my colleagues' questions, but at the same time I do understand the immense challenges around procurement and making sure that we are keeping pace with the threat that is ever evolving. What I'm concerned about, have you allocated servicing and refit locations in the United Kingdom then? Because these sort of perceived delays, they are causing genuine concerns in places like Plymouth and other naval bases.
I absolutely recognise that, and when I was down in Plymouth at Armed Forces Day recently, I was talking extensively to your fellow MPs, to the leader of the council, to the Lord Mayor, and a raft of other interested industry partners in Plymouth. The Royal Navy is responsible for the base porting of its ships and submarines, and we work incredibly hard to get the balance of that right in terms of what's an appropriate base load of basing in each of the naval bases, what's the best value for money way of combining various ships and submarines in the way they're base ported, and also the interests and concerns of the local community as well. I think on the whole we've got that broadly right in the last decade or so, and we have certainly shaped Fast Lane, Devonport and Portsmouth to be effectively centres of specialisation for different components of capability, and Devonport of course absolutely badged now as the central specialisation for amphibious shipping, for the whole of the way in which the Royal Marines generate littoral manoeuvre and fast boat and landing craft training, also for half of the Royal Navy's frigate fleet, and a particular home for the ASW towed array frigates, which are increasingly based there. And of course, for now, at least a residual home for some of the nuclear submarines.
Yeah.
What we've done on top of that is look at where we should most appropriately refit our ships and submarines. Now here I'm straying into Tony's world, and I'll defer to him very shortly, but we want to make sure we get the balance right between base porting and refit facilities. And Devonport clearly is the long-term home of both submarine and surface ship refitting. And that's very clear.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, yeah.
Just to supplement, as First has already said, in part of your question, you said, would the refits be carried out onshore or abroad? For the avoidance of any doubt, they'll be carried out in the United Kingdom.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So I understand they'll be in the United Kingdom. My concern is where they will be in the United Kingdom. But is the development of the general purpose frigate being driven by the need to find a stopgap to span the decommissioning of the Type 23s and a delivery of the Type 26?
No, it's absolutely not a stopgap. From my perspective, it's a long-term solution, and I understand the SDSR deliberation that what the Navy needed in its Type 26 was enough ships to have resilience in our fourth generation cycle, to have enough available to protect the deterrent and to protect the carrier strike group, and 8 is the right number to do that using our fourth generation factors. So then the deliberation was, well, what else does the Navy need? Where else do we want the Navy to operate? What other tasks do we want the Navy to do? And the deliberation was quite rightly, well, that looks more like tasking for a general purpose frigate, slightly lower specification, build it slightly faster and cheaper, crucially from my perspective, have a smaller ships company, and produce something that will be a really good export potential, and that's what that is going to be. So it's a clear.
So can you assure there'll be no trade-off in capabilities for this general purpose frigate in order to develop a ship for export?
No, there won't, and I don't think that has to be in any way in contention. When we look at, with our partners in UKTI, the kind of ships that navies around the world are looking for, not surprisingly, very many of them are in the game for general purpose frigates, which have an ocean-going, deployable, sustainable capability, which can conduct maritime security operations, but are not going to get in the game of high-end protection of a carrier strike group or a deterrent submarine. And therefore, we don't think we'll have to make trade-offs. The Navy is ready to look, as we always are, at the cost, capability, time trade-off that we need to get the right ship in at the right time, at the right cost, manned and trained in the right way. But we are not interested in something that can't operate on the world's oceans as a reliable, dependable and independent frigate, and that's what I'm sure we'll get.
And the whole national shipbuilding strategy will obviously take all of this into account.
Yeah, of course. Lovely. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.